Imagine walking home from school alone. It is getting dark, you are scrolling on your phone, minding your own business, and a woman in a beige coat and a surgical mask steps in front of you. She tilts her head and asks, "Do you think I'm pretty?" Every answer you give gets you killed. That is not the start of a horror movie. That is something kids in Japan are actually warned about. Tonight we are going to Japan, where their fairy tales are the kind of stories that make you sleep with the lights on. I am talking urban legends, cursed dolls, school bathrooms that you never want to use again, and ghost girls with very serious haircare routines. So get comfy, but not too comfy. Because by the end of this video, you might be side-eyeing every mirror, every hallway, and definitely every doll in your house. So let us start with the icon herself, the one that haunts every Japanese kid's walk home. Kuchisake-onna, the slit-mouthed woman. Picture this. You are a kid in elementary school. It is the 90s, you have your little backpack on, maybe some snacks, and the only thing you are thinking about is cartoons. And suddenly, a woman in a long coat appears in the street. She is wearing a mask over her mouth, like a medical mask. Totally normal in Japan, no one would think twice. She comes closer and asks you in this soft voice, "Am I pretty?" Now, in some versions, if you say no, she gets offended, pulls out a pair of scissors and just kills you on the spot. So, not ideal. If you say yes, she goes, "Really?" Then she slowly pulls down the mask. Her mouth is slit open from ear to ear, Glasgow smile style. And she is like, "How about now?" If you say no, now she kills you. If you say yes, she is so happy that she wants to make you beautiful too. So she slices your mouth to match hers. Basically, there is no winning, just vibes and trauma. Teachers used to warn kids about this. Parents would not let their children walk home alone. There were even newspaper stories about kids claiming that they saw her. What I love about this legend in a really disturbing way is how it taps into the awkward social fear. Like, when someone asks, "Do I look okay?" And you're like, yeah, you look fine. But you are not sure what answer they want. Now imagine that, but if you get it wrong, you die. This is the anxiety people pleaser nightmare. In some modern versions, people say there are tricks to survive. Like you can confuse her by answering so-so, or asking her a question, or dropping candy and running while she is distracted. Honestly, if a ghost with scissors is in my face, I'm not clever enough for riddles. I'm tripping over my own feet and dying in the first 5 seconds. If Kuchisake-onna haunts the streets, Hanako-san owns the school bathroom. Every country has one specific bathroom that just feels cursed, right? In Japan, that bathroom literally has a name, so Hanako is usually described as a young girl with a bob haircut, wearing an old-fashioned school uniform. And she lives in a third stall of the third-floor girls' bathroom. To summon her, kids are supposed to go in the bathroom, knock 3 times on the third stall and ask, "Hanako-san, are you there?" And if she is, she answers. Sometimes you hear a little girl's voice say, "Yes, I'm here." Sometimes a bloody hand reaches out from under the door. In some stories, the stall door slowly creaks open and she drags you inside. The way this would have ruined my bladder as a child, I would simply never pee at school again. I love how specific kids' legends are. It is never, "There is a ghost somewhere in the school." No. It is third floor, third stall, you have to knock 3 times, say the exact line, then maybe die. There are different versions in different regions. Sometimes she was bullied and took her own life there. So you have this mix of real history, real trauma, and then kids turn it into this creepy game of, "Do you dare do it?" And every group of friends has that one chaotic person who is like, "Come on, let us summon her after class, it will be fun." No, it will not. If I had this legend growing up, I would be the kid outside the bathroom like, good luck guys, I will just guard the hallway. From out here, far away from the demon stall. Next up, we have a story that will ruin train stations for you. This is the legend of Teke Teke. Once upon a time, there was a schoolgirl, sometimes called Kashima Reiko, who fell onto train tracks. And train came and brutally cut her body in half. Now in that, she is furious. She drags her upper body around using just her hands and elbows, rushing after people in the night. As she moves, her torso scrapes the ground, making this awful sound teke 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 teke, which is where she gets her name. In typical Teke Teke encounters, someone is walking near train tracks or a quiet road at the night. They hear that weird scraping sound behind them. They turn around and there is this girl, no legs, just upper body, crawling at insane speed. Like a ghost carrier is no joke. If she catches you, she cuts you in half so you match her. This legend hits a very specific fear. The fear of being chased and knowing you cannot run fast enough. Also, I do not like anything that moves wrong. You know, those horror scenes when something is crawling too fast or bent the wrong way? Instant nope. There are even versions where she shows up in bathrooms or classrooms asking, "Where are my legs?" And if you do not know how to answer, she kills you. In some tellings, this overlaps with another legend called Kashima Reiko, who is also a vengeful spirit asking victims where her legs are. Apparently, the correct answer is supposed to be something like on the Mason Expressway or in a hospital, depending on the region. Again, I just feel like if a ghost demands a geography quiz for me, I am failing and that is it. Imagine dying because you were bad in Japanese social studies. Okay, this one is one of my personal favorites because it feels like a full horror movie in one story. Her name is Hachishakusama, which literally means 8 foot tall. She is this impossibly tall woman, sometimes in a white dress, sometimes in a hat, who makes this really weird sound. Already creepy. The story usually goes like this. A little boy visits his grandparents in the countryside. He is playing outside and hears that strange noise. He looks up and sees a very tall woman standing behind a fence or a wall just watching him. She looks too tall to be human. Later, his grandparents find out and completely panic. They realize Hachishakusama has noticed him. In this legend, once she chooses you, she becomes obsessed. She will stalk you for days or weeks. You might see her reflection in windows, hear her voice outside, or notice her shape lurking just at the edge of your vision. The family brings in a monk or a priest to try to protect the child. There is this whole ritual with charms and rules like do not open the door no matter what you hear. Of course, at night, Hachishakusama comes. She tries to trick the boy by imitating the voices of his relatives. He hears his grandma outside the door, crying, "Open up, it is me!" But the real grandma is in the other room. Finally, the ritual ends at sunrise and the boy survives. But the family is so terrified that they send him far away and never let him visit that area again. Years later, as an adult, he randomly hears that same sound again. And that is usually where the story ends. I love this because it is so cinematic. You can see the scene in your head. The quiet countryside, the grandparents who suddenly get deadly serious, the night of rules, the scratching at the door. It is also such a good metaphor for those random childhood fears that never really leave. Like he grows up, moves on, but that sound brings him right back to the terrified kid who knew something was outside his door. If I ever heard this in real life, I am moving countries, no discussion. Now we are going a little more classic ghost story. This is Okiku, and she is so famous in Japan that they are actually well associated with her. The story changes depending on who you ask, but the basics are Okiku is a servant girl working in a samurai household. Her master owns 10 very valuable porcelain plates. One day, one of the plates goes missing. Her master accuses Okiku of losing it. In some versions, he actually hides the plate on purpose because he wants to force her into a relationship. And when she refuses, he needs an excuse to punish her. He threatens her, tortures her, and eventually kills her. He throws her body into a well. After that, strange things start to happen. At night, people hear the sound of a woman's voice coming from the well, quietly counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then she gets to 9. And there is this awful pause, and she realizes the 10th plate is still missing. She lets out this bone-chilling scream of despair that echoes through the house. And she does this every night. There is something so sad about it. She is not just a monster. She is stuck in this trauma loop, reliving the moment she was blamed and killed. Also, as someone who constantly loses things in my own house, I deeply feel this. If my ghost after that is just me wandering around like phone, keys, wallet, where did I put the 10th plate? I'm going to be so mad. In some versions, a priest finally calms her spirit by shouting 10 at the end of her counting as if to complete it for her. After that, she finally finds peace. It is such a tiny detail, but really powerful. Sometimes you just need someone to finish the sentence you never got to finish in life. Yes, we have another Okiku, but this one is not a girl. This time it is a doll. So the story goes that in the early 1900s, a young boy bought a doll for his little sister Okiku. She loved this doll. She played with it every day, took it everywhere, slept with it. Then sadly the girl died very young. Her family placed the doll on a home altar to remember her. After a while, they noticed something strange. The doll's hair, which was originally a neat bob, seemed to be getting longer. At first, they thought they were imagining it. But as years passed, the hair actually grew down to the doll's shoulders, then to its waist. The family became convinced that their daughter's spirit was living inside the doll. At least that is what the legend says. Eventually, they gave the doll to a Buddhist temple, Manenji, where monks supposedly still keep it, give it regular haircuts, and claim that the hair keeps growing back. Scientists allegedly examined a strand and said it was real human hair. Now, whether that is all true or not, the image of a doll sitting in a temple salon appointment, getting a trim because its ghost hair will not stop growing. Nope. Dolls already have bad vibes for me. I do not care if it's Annabelle, Chucky, or Barbie with a weird haircut. If the hair starts growing on its own, I'm leaving the country. This is such a good moment to show some really creepy doll shots on the screen. And I want you to tell me in the comments if you ever had a toy that felt like it moved or changed on its own where you were a kid. Because I already know the comments are going to be full of "I had a doll that blinked when no one touched it." And I will be here scrolling through them at midnight, absolutely regretting my life choices. Now we are getting into full tragic ghost queen energy. This is Oiwa from the story Yotsuya Kaidan, probably the most famous Japanese ghost story ever. Oiwa is married to a man named Yemen. He is not exactly husband of the year. He wants to get rid of Oiwa so he can marry another woman from a richer family. So instead of just, breaking up like a normal villain, he decides to poison her slowly. The poison disfigures her face. One of her eyes droops, her hair falls out in clumps, her skin becomes ruined. When Oiwa finally realizes what he has done, she dies in absolute misery and rage. After her death, Yemon thinks he is free to move on. Spoiler, he is not. Oiwa begins to haunt him in the most messed up psychological ways. Her face appears in lanterns, indoors, in other people's faces. On his wedding night, with the new bride, he sees Oiwa's deformed face on his bride's body and, in a frenzy, he kills her. Basically, she destroys his life from beyond the grave. I kind of love her for that. Ghost justice. What is interesting is that this story is so integrated in Japanese culture that actors and crews who put on plays or movies of Yotsuya Kaidan will apparently go to Oiwa's shrine to pray first, because they are scared of bad luck of angering her spirit. Imagine a role so iconic that even centuries later people are like, "Hi, Miss Oiwa, madam, huge fan. Please do not haunt our production. Thank you." She is also one of the inspirations behind the classic image of Japanese unreal ghost. You know the look. Long, black hair, white dress, pale face. Think The Ring, The Grudge. That whole aesthetic owes a lot to Oiwa. So every time you see a ghost girl slowly crawling out of a TV, just know she has a big sister in the 1800s who started this trend. Okay, for the last part of this video, I want to give you two yokai that are not exactly fairy tales, but they are too creepy not to mention. Yorogumo is this beautiful woman who appears in some lonely place, like near a waterfall or in an old house. A man sees her and is like, "Wow, she is gorgeous, what a lucky day." Spoiler, it is not. He goes with her, falls under her spell, and then at some point realizes she is not human. She is actually a giant spider that can shapeshift. When she reveals her true form, it is already too late. He is wrapped in webs like a snake. Again, I have to say, Japanese legends have a thing about punishing men who cannot control themselves. You see a random mysterious woman in the middle of nowhere, zero context, and your first thought is, "Yes, let me follow her into a dark place." That is natural selection at work. As someone who doesn't like spiders very much, the idea of a spider that can flirt is my final brain cells limit. Absolutely not. And finally, we have Gashodokuro, which sounds like a metal band but is actually way worse. Imagine you are walking alone at night. Everything is quiet. Suddenly, you hear this rattling sound like bones clacking together. You look up and there is a skeleton, but not a normal skeleton. It is huge, like towering over buildings huge. Gashodokuro is made from the piled up bones of people who died from starvation or in a war, whose bodies were left unburied. It wanders around at night looking for living humans to grab and bite their heads off. Sometimes it sneaks up so silently that the only warning is a ringing in your ears. By the time you hear the bones rattle, it is too late. There is something extra sad about this one too. It is literally made out of people who were forgotten. So the monster itself is kind of like a giant, angry embodiment of neglect. But still, if I saw 15-meter tall skeletons strolling through the city, I am pretending I did not. I am putting my phone down, closing my curtains, and filing it under "not my business." Japanese fairy tales are really not fairy tales at all. They are like, do not talk to strangers, do not bully people, do not be greedy, maybe bury your dead, and definitely do not follow a random hot person into the woods. But instead of saying it nicely, they're like, if you forget, a legless ghost will chase you down a train track and cut you in half. Have a good night. Personally, I find it so interesting how many of these stories are tied to real world places. A specific well, a specific bathroom stall, a specific temple with a doll in it. It makes everything feels way more real. Like, logically it is a story, but if you were actually standing in front of that well at midnight and heard someone counting from 1 to 9, would you stay and see what happens at 10? Because I would be running so fast I would invent teleportation. If you enjoyed this little trip into Japanese nightmares, let me know which story creeped you out the most and if you want me to dive deeper into one of them in its own video. And next time we are traveling to another country with equally cursed fairy tales. So maybe do not watch that one right before bed either.